I was happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and we are here to talk about the rumors going around that the Washington Commanders are co-favorites to land edge rusher Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals in 2025. Now let's lay some ground rules. First of all, he's not a free agent. We will have to trade for him. Secondly, these are just rumors. We're more so here to talk about why this will make a lot of sense for the Commanders, why we should do this, but this is not grounded in any type of truth. This is not Ian Rappaport. This is not Adam Schefter or anybody else reporting this. This is coming from Bovada official gambling site. So just keep that in mind. No clickbait. Before we even get into all of this and before we dive into everything, make sure you stiff on that like button, stiff on the subscription button, and stiff on the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Really appreciate y'all for supporting all of the videos, even videos like this where it's grounded in rumors instead of truth and facts. I really appreciate y'all for pulling up and still supporting these videos. Make sure you stay tuned for daily content. Really, I mean, of all time. I can't even say until the postseason, because even in the postseason, I'm trying to put out at least a video a day. I'm getting to the point where I need to be doing 2 videos a day, especially leading up to this Eagles game, because I have so many different things to talk about. And make sure you, of course, pull up for that upcoming Eagles game live stream. I'll be live streaming all 4 quarters per usual. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so all of this started when I saw _ML football tweet news. The Commanders are co-favorites to land 3-time Pro Bowl pass rusher Trey Hendrickson if he leaves Cincinnati, per Bovada official. And you may ask, who is Bovada official? They are a sports book, gambling, casino, all of that type of stuff. So who knows if they're just making this up? I can't even find an article on this from them or anything like that. I can't find any backup information to this other than this exact tweet that I'm reading to you. And then they go on to finish up by saying Hendrickson leads the league in sacks and will want a new contract. Washington will have nearly $100 million in cap space. We're going to dive into all of that. We're going to dive into the cap space we'd have, why it makes sense for everybody involved, why the Bengals probably can't afford to pay him, why we can afford to pay him, and why he would prefer to be with the Commanders rather than the Bengals. That's what we're going to dive into today. But of course, again, all of this started from a complete rumor that I can't even find background information on. It says we're co-favorites. I can't even find out who the other co-favorite is. So I'm just trying to tell all of y'all that everything, lay it all out on the line, be completely transparent with y'all before we even get further into this video. So if you stick around for more in this video, I really appreciate you, but I'm not trying to clickbait y'all. So now let's go further into it. First of all, Dan Quinn loves this guy. Remember a couple of days before we played the Bengals, Dan Quinn said exactly, quote, "We hold him in such high regard about the style and the attitude that he plays with, and might be over the last 2.5, 3 years, he's been as productive as anybody rushing the passer." And so you're right to say, not only us, but all of the teams, you circle on the game plan to say, this is one that you got to be prepared for and going. It's a good matchup, one that's tough, and you got to use all of the tools to get there. But yeah, we hold him in very high regard, unquote. So if you're questioning whether this defensive staff, Dan Quinn, the head coach, Joe Wood Jr., the defensive coordinator, if they're potentially interested in Trey Hendrickson, if he were to become available via trade or whatever from the Bengals, because they can't afford to pay him, we're going to dive into that relatively soon. You know that this staff wants him. You know, some staffs may see him as because he's not necessarily a household name, but our coaching staff realizes how good Trey Hendrickson is. We're going to dive into later how he's leading the NFL in sacks right now as well. This guy is very impactful, and this is before even week 3. This was leading up to the week 3 game we had against the Bengals when Dan Quinn said this, before Trey Hendrickson was leading the NFL in sacks. So they already know, hey, this guy's serious, and I'm pretty sure if he ever becomes available via trade, highly doubt he'll just be a free agent like the Bengals cut him or anything like that. They would trade him away if they do. I'm not sure if Adam Peters would necessarily want to do it, but we know our head coach Dan Quinn would more than love to do that and to make that move and to make this defense pretty much unstoppable. You add Trey Hendrickson to this defense, it's literally unstoppable. Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Sanford still as your outside corners. Jeremy Chin, when healthy, as one of your safeties. I like Quan Martin as well. Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner in the middle, and then Trey Hendrickson on the outside. Come on, man. Johnny Newton only getting better. But now, granted, even though Bafada Official are like the only people I'm seeing that were co-favorites to land them, you had an article way back by Justin Mello on the Draft Network all the way back on November 1st, where they said 3 teams that should trade for Trey Hendrickson. They picked the Atlanta Falcons, the Arizona Cardinals, and then most importantly for us, the Washington Commanders. They said the 6-2 Washington Commanders, and this is back in November 1st, 6-2, the Washington Commanders sit atop the NFC East. Oh boy, what a time that was. Seems like ages ago when we were leading the division. It's incredible how, fast it feels like this season is gone, but that feels like ages ago when we were leading the NFC East. They have Offensive Rookie of the Year candidate quarterback Jaden Daniels to thank. Daniels has completely transformed this franchise, immediately removing them from the basement of the NFL and turning them into instant playoff contenders. Dan Quinn is a defense-first coach. Both of his current starting edge rushers, Dante Fowler and Dorrance Armstrong, are players he coached with the Dallas Cowboys. That's interesting, too. He did bring both of his starting edge rushers over from the Cowboys with him. Fowler Jr. and Armstrong are fine players, but a truly elite talent like Hendrickson would elevate this group to new heights. I completely agree. And Dante Fowler right now is like top 5 and top 8 in sacks right now. We're going to dive into that really soon, but Hendrickson is just on a different level. The Commanders are scheduled to possess $121.4 million in cap space this summer, and general manager Adam Peters can afford to go shopping with Daniels on a rookie deal for the foreseeable future. And that's a good point. First of all, we're not going to have that much. We're going to dive into exactly how much we have, because you got to remember we traded for Marshawn Lattimore, and he's eating up some of that in the future. But that is a good point. While Jaden Daniels was on a rookie deal, he's playing at an elite top 5 quarterback level right now on rookie money. This is the time when you need to go be aggressive and get great guys at different position groups, most notably edge rusher. But every position group that we can elevate, and if it's a money thing, go ahead and spend it, because Jaden Daniels is not going to cost pennies on the dollar for forever. We have the next 4 or 5 years for Jaden Daniels to be very inexpensive, and for us to have the resources and the money to be able to pay top guys at their respective positions right now to build a Super Bowl contender around this top 5 quarterback in Jaden Daniels. It's incredible that we can say that with confidence. I mean, even just going back to the draft, I was like, I think Jaden Daniels has top 5 quarterback talent. I remember some people were saying Drake May had the higher ceiling, Jaden Daniels had the higher floor. I kept saying, are we just ignoring how mobile this guy is? Like, are we just ignoring the fact that his legs can also increase his ceiling as well? I said he could be a potential top 10, maybe even top 5 quarterback at the very best. Now it feels like he's pretty much solidified as already as a top 5 quarterback. So even though this is different from the whole Trey Hendrickson conversation, that just hit me like, man, I mean, just thinking back to a few months ago, to say definitively with your chest out that Jaden Daniels is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now, it's incredible. I would have never, even as much of a believer as I was in Jaden Daniels, I would have never thought I could say it with this much oomph, you know what I'm saying, by December. Like, yeah, top 5 quarterback for sure, without a doubt, you know what I'm saying? No context, no way anybody disagree with that. We could pull up the stats, we could pull up the highlights, whatever you want to use. If you're an advanced stats guy, we can use that too. You want to use some charts. But either way, getting back to Trey Hendrickson, as of right now, he's leading the NFL in sacks. He was when I was first started working on this video, he was leading the NFL in sacks last week. He didn't even get a sack this past weekend and still leads the NFL in sacks. So he's number 1 right now with 12.5 sacks on the season. We still have 3 more games to go. Daniil Hunter is second with 12. TJ Watt is third with 11.5, tied for third with Nick Bottino of the Denver Broncos. And that Denver Broncos defense is insane. I don't want to hear nothing about comparing Bo Nix to Jaden Daniels when Bo Nix is arguably playing on the best defense in the NFL right now. Myles Garrett is 5th, but even on the Commanders end of things, Dante Fowler is actually 12th. My fault. I think he was top 8 when I was working on the video last week, but I think he didn't get a sack against the New Orleans Saints because, all of them hating penalties and things like that. He never ended up actually getting the sack. So he's tied. He's in a 4-way tie for 12th place with 8.5 sacks with Leonard Floyd, Michael Parsons, and Travon Walker. That's a Georgia dog right there. So that's good company to be around, but he's still 12th. And even Frankie Louvu, he's tied for 16th. That's like a 6-7 way tie with a whole bunch of other people. Zadarius Smith, Cameron Hayward, Harold Landry, Josh Sweat, Brian Burns, Jonathan Cooper. That's also really great company to be in as well for Frankie Louvu. Like, those are some great names. So you have Frankie Louvu, who's tied for 16th, Dante Fowler tied for 12th, but neither of these guys, let me emphasize this, like, we have some good pass rushers here. Dante Fowler off the edge, Frankie Louvu, you know, technically as an off-ball linebacker, but also coming off the edge and sometimes up the middle as well on a blitz. But none of them are Trey Hendrickson at number 1 in the NFL in sacks right now. Number 1. If you can add the number 1 sack guy in the NFL to this defense, it's insane. I would be so confident about our chances in these playoffs right now if we could somehow acquire him right now legally without without breaking a bunch of rules. But either way, Trey Hendrickson is absolutely insane. I mean, even Pro Football Focus. Now, granted, we don't necessarily agree with Pro Football Focus all of the time. Really not even most of the time. Really, it's probably about 50-50. But either way, they have him ranked as the 10th best edge rusher in the entire NFL with an overall grade of 85.9. I kind of push back on that. I definitely feel like he should be higher than that. I mean, of course, sacks aren't the only metric to an edge rusher, and that's like not the only way that you can measure how good an edge rusher is. But when you're leading the sacks in NFL, you're literally number 1. I refuse to believe that you should be out of the top 10. But they just feel like his run defense isn't necessarily that good with a 64.9. Still pretty good, but not like elite like a TJ Watt, who has a 92.2 run defense grade. So, but Trey Hendrickson's pass rush grade, insane. When it comes to pass rush only, they feel like he has the 5th best, highest grade in the NFL with a 90.5, only behind Aiden Hutchinson, Nick Herbig of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, and then it's Trey Hendrickson with that 90.5 pass rush grade. So, hey, man, I'll take it. I mean, nobody on the Commanders is even relatively close. I mean, you got to scroll all the way down to 36 for Dorrance Armstrong, and that's great. Dorrance Armstrong was not even in anywhere near the top 50 of sack leaders in the NFL, but they feel like he is the 36th best edge rusher in the entire NFL when it comes to grades. So not statistically, but I guess they watch the film and say that, yeah, he's better than what his stats say. But either way, even just pass rush wise, I mean, Dorrance Armstrong is like top 20 in grade, but my point is, nobody is in the realm of Trey Hendrickson right now. And even taking a look at his career grades, this guy only gets better and better, according to Pro Football Focus at least, because we could just start with 2020. He was a rookie in 2017, but we're just going to skip all the way to 2020. He was a 72.1 grade, 2021 72.3. Then that was when he first got to Cincinnati. Then in 2022, he was an 85 grade, exploded onto the scene looking like one of the best edge rushers. Then 2023, he was an 82.3, and then now this year, his highest grade of his entire NFL career with an 85.4. And again, with Dante Fowler and Frankie Louvu looking that good, doing their thing as far as getting to the quarterback, you add Trey Hendrickson to that would make our defense literally unfair. With Mike Sanderstill and Marshawn Lattimore in year 2 of this defense, absolutely insane, man. That would be incredible. So now let's take a look at the cap space situation that the Washington Commanders have going on. Well, we still have a lot of cap space. Even after trading for Marshawn Lattimore, we are still 4th in the NFL in projected 2025 cap space. You have the New England Patriots, number 1, with nearly $140 million in cap space. It's like a big gap between them and the second place team. You know, we're all the second through 4th place, including the Commanders right there, all kind of jumbled up in one pile. There's different tiers. The New England Patriots, then it's the Raiders, Cardinals, and Commanders in one tier together. That's the second tier. And then it's the third tier with everybody else, because there's a steep drop off from 1 to 2. And then there's another steep drop off from us at 4 to the Chicago Bears at 5. So again, the New England Patriots, number 1 at $140 million. Big drop. Then the Raiders at $111 million, Cardinals at $104 million, and then the Commanders at $101 million. Then a big drop off again. 5th at the Chicago Bears at $82 million. So the Washington Commanders are in good company when it comes to potential 2025 cap space. Now remember, we do have a lot of free agents that we need to re-sign. Like a lot of people who are not only contributing to this team right now, but are starters are free agents. A lot of these guys are playing on 1-year deals. You got to remember that. So remember that even though we do have the 4th most cap space in the NFL, a lot of that is actually probably going to be eaten up by bringing back guys that you just kind of assume are still going to be on the team next year. That's not necessarily true. Like when we're talking about the Commanders having the top 4 cap space in the NFL, that does not include Bobby Wagner, Jeremy Chin. I guess you could throw Marcus Mariota in there as well, but even KJ Osborne, we'll see what he does for us these final 3 games, and then going into the postseason. Cleveland Farrell, even though, I mean, he's not as much of a priority, but it would still be nice to have him for depth. Tress Way, your star punter. Dante Fowler himself. Michael Davis, he can go. Zach Ertz, we'll see where he's at age-wise and how he can move his body, because this guy has had a rest day every Wednesday all season. So we'll see if he can hold up and be able to contribute next year. If he can, I'm perfectly fine with bringing him back. Cornelius Lucas, bring him back. Michael Dieter didn't look good as a backup center against the Saints, but maybe you can still bring him back for very cheap. Jamison Crowder, as of right now, you're starting punt returner. He made some big plays for us against the Saints, picked up a couple of first downs for us on 3rd down. Noah Monogany. You got to remember, Noah Monogany is only 25 years old. And I've already gave y'all the advanced stats in a previous video, and I'm going to bring those stats up again in my Commanders Kings stats video that I'm going to come out with later on tonight. But basically, Noah Monogany, statistically, is a top 10 corner in the NFL right now. So you definitely want to re-sign him long-term. Benjamin St. Juice, you can go ahead and let him go. Golly. Alameda Zaccheaus, maybe you bring him back for super cheap. De'Ami Brown, definitely bring him back for super cheap. He has a niche on this team that nobody else can fill, so I would definitely love to keep him around. Noah Brown, hey man, bring him back for super cheap if you can. Again, Jeff Driscoll, that's whatever. Jeremy McNichols, I would like to bring him back for cheap. Mikal Walker, probably bring him back for like a super duper cheap deal. John Bates, I would like to bring him back at tight end, even though it's nice to avoid throwing him the ball. He's still a good 3rd tackle on the field, an additional offensive lineman, a 6th offensive lineman. And then Derek Forrest, I mean, at least for special teams, bring him back. Maybe with another year under this Dan Quinn Joey Jr. system, he can figure it out. But he did not look good against the Saints in those final 7 minutes after he knocked Jeremy Chin out of the game. But either way, my main point is, and the reason why I read to you all those names, you got to remember, out of all of those names that I just gave you, if you want them to play for the Commanders next year, you have to subtract that money that you would pay those guys from us having the top 4 cap space in the NFL. So realistically, we'll probably stay somewhere in the range of top 10 cap space in the NFL. I don't think we're going to fall from 101 million all the way down to Tennessee, who's 11th with 65 million. I don't think we're going to fall that far down, but just to keep in mind, when you hear 4th most cap space in 2025, I don't want y'all to create this unrealistic scenario where it's like, okay, we can go and pay everybody, give us everybody in the NFL, and then just completely neglect the fact that starters like Bobby Wagner and Dante Fowler are not included on this roster right now when you're projecting forward. So I really want to make sure I keep bringing this up in multiple videos, because I really want Commanders fans to make sure they internalize that and remember that moving forward. Also, want to point out the fact that when you're looking at the Bengals, how about them? Because that's really important, right? When we're talking about cap space, the Bengals are 14th with only 59 million. Like literally, we almost double their cap space. Now, again, granted, we have some free agents that we need to resign, but at the same time, they do too as well. Like, we're talking about us, like you're projecting the cap space, but then you still have a bunch of starters that you need to resign. When we're talking about the Bengals having the 14th most cap space in the NFL compared to us having the 4th, and then I just broke down how we still need to resign Bobby Wagner and all of these guys, the Bengals still need to resign T. Higgins. That's not included in the 2025 projected cap space at all. He's off the books, complete unrestricted free agent. BJ Hill, Mike Hilton, Trenton Brown, Marco Wilson, Mike Gesicki. I mean, so many starters, Von Bell, so many contributors that, hey man, do you plan on bringing these guys back? Khalil Herbert, we could just keep going and going. So they're in a similar situation. Like, we have to re-sign a lot of guys, but they do too. And at the same time, we have nearly double their cap space. So just to remind you, they can't pay everybody, like especially with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins looking for big time contracts. Jamar Chase's contract isn't even up, and he's still making sure he makes it known that he wants his big money. And they definitely should have paid both of these guys before this season, because T. Higgins even went crazy a few games when he was healthy. And then Jamar Chase, even though he was already considered one of the best, arguably the best receiver in the NFL, he went out there and had an even better season than anybody was expecting. I mean, he was ridiculous this year. So you got to pay him even more now that you could have probably have paid him for before the season even started. So it's ugly for them. They have a bunch of huge contracts. Somebody's going to end up leaving, and maybe even 2 of the 3 may end up leaving. I mean, of course, they can try to do some finesses, but I feel like at least one of those guys is going to end up leaving, and I'll take any combination of two or even one of those three players. Give me Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins, or Trey Hendrickson. In my opinion, if one of those guys leaves, we need to be on either one of them. But Trey Hendrickson would probably be the most important one for us. I would love T. Higgins, but Trey Hendrickson would definitely improve our team at a higher clip, at a higher rate than even a T. Higgins would. And I'm a big T. Higgins fan. I'm one of those people that does want to re-sign him. Injuries or not, injury concerns or not. But Trey Hendrickson, the edge rusher, could make us a way better team and improve us at a higher clip than even T. Higgins, the wide receiver, could. But it would be nice if we could get both. But going back to Trey Hendrickson specifically, I do want to remind y'all that he's still on the Bengals roster on contract for 2025. But the Bengals, if they really want to keep both Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins, if they want to do everything that they can to keep both of those receivers, they could end up cutting Trey and saving $12 million and put that towards paying both of those two receivers big time contracts. I personally think that it would be a terrible idea for the Bengals to do that, but if they did, we are on Trey Hendrickson immediately, in my opinion. Again, Dan Quinn loves him. I'm pretty sure, there's no way you could look at the NFL sack leader and be like, nah, I don't want him. So I'm pretty sure Adam Peters would even like to have him. It's just the problem of, will he even be available? Are the Bengals willing to trade him, or would they just go ahead and cut? You know what I'm saying? But I'm pretty sure they would trade him. They wouldn't just cut him to save the $12 million. They would trade him away and save some of that and get even more money back. And don't forget, NFL veterans were telling their agents to trade them to the Commanders before the trade deadline. And now imagine how crazy it's going to get when the Commanders don't even have to trade for those guys. They could just walk for free, and all we got to do is pay them. Now for Trey Hendrickson, we would have to trade for him, so keep that in mind again. But what about all of the other top free agents in 2025? T. Higgins, according to CBS Sports, he's the #1 free agent. I think it's very realistic of an option that we could potentially get him. Trey Smith, the guard from the Chiefs, we can go ahead and skip past that. Javon Holland, if you want him from the Dolphins, even though I highly doubt the Dolphins let him go at safety. But DJ Reed, according to CBS Sports, he's the 4th most notable free agent available in 2025. He's a cornerback for the Jets. And remember, I've already broken this story down a few times, but long story short, leading up to the trade deadline, like early in the morning, like the day of the trade deadline, November, whatever that was, that morning, he tweeted like an emoji of like excitement, like, uh-oh, like, okay, maybe something's going. Literally immediately after we traded for Marshawn Lattimore, like a few minutes later, he put the sad emojis on Twitter, like a crying emoji, like, ah, man, I'm cooked, basically, because he clearly wanted out of the Jets. You see Garrett Wilson wants out of the Jets. That Jets organization right now is complete turmoil, and just, it's ridiculous what's going on right now. Did y'all hear about that GM saying, it was the owner or the GM saying that they stopped, they were about to trade for Jerry Jeudy, but they stopped it because his Madden rating was too low? They're the new Dan Snyder over there. The chaos of the Burgundy and Gold were under Dan Snyder. The Panthers had to deal with that with David Tepper, especially last year, and now the Jets are kind of dealing with the same things this year. But either way, my point is, DJ Reed wanted out of the Jets. And just to let you know, the reason why I could tell that DJ Reed clearly wanted to go to the Commanders again, Adam Schefter tweeted himself, reported and everything, and said that free agents are telling their agents, NFL players are telling their agents, please trade me to the Commanders before this trade deadline. DJ Reed was definitely one of those, because the trade deadline was at 4 p.m. We traded for Marshawn Lattimore at like 1-something p.m., like 1:20. DJ Reed tweeted at like 1:30 or something like that, the sad emoji. So it wasn't even like the trade deadline was done. Like there was still like another 2.5 hours that DJ Reed still could have been traded to somewhere else, and he already tweeted the sad emoji. So he clearly was one of the guys that wanted to go to the Commanders. So without us having to trade for him in free agency, he could just walk for free. Maybe we could trade for the 28-year-old corner right there, and then you would have DJ Reed, Mike Sanders still, and Marshawn Lattimore. You could argue that's the best cornerback group in the entire NFL. But you also have Travarius Ward, the cornerback from the 49ers, maybe to pull back up on Adam Peters. There's a lot of options out there. If you run Ronnie Stanley from the Ravens, maybe if they let him go, Amari Cooper will be a free agent from the Bills, but they're not letting him go, especially after they just traded for him. But Chris Godwin, the wide wide receiver from the Buccaneers. I've seen a couple of articles saying that we should trade for him, that maybe I'll do a whole video on that later. There's a lot of interesting free agents out there. I feel like DJ Reed is the one that's most likely, just off of the fact that he really wanted to join the Commanders before we even traded for Marshawn Lattimore. He'll be a free agent. We wouldn't have to trade for him like we would have to trade for Trey Hendrickson. So just to take it back, remember, Trey Hendrickson, we would have to trade for him. He's not just a free agent, but then again, the Bengals may do whatever it takes to recoup any value that they can get for him because they're trying to prioritize Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, or maybe they prioritize Trey Hendrickson and Jamar Chase and let T. Higgins walk, and then we're able to just pick up T. Higgins. So either way, I expect the Commanders to be doing their best poaching job of the Bengals. Y'all gonna have to give us Trey Hendrickson or T. Higgins, one of them. You can't have them all. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed in the video. Please still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. I really appreciate y'all for pulling up and supporting these videos, especially if you made it this far, especially in a video like this where it's completely rooted in rumors. I really appreciate you for making it this far in the video. Really salute you. Please leave a like on the way out. Of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about this whole Trey Hendrickson situation. Do you feel like it's worth trading for him instead of just getting him as a free agent? Do you feel like it's worth doing whatever it takes to get Trey Hendrickson to be a part of the Washington Commanders 2025 defense? Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my points. I'm gonna keep y'all in tune with everything Commanders, whether it's facts and reports from official sources or even if it's rumors like this. Y'all know I got y'all covered with everything Commanders. I just try to make sure, at least with videos like this, when it's completely rumor based, that I try to like not clickbait y'all and like let y'all know ahead of time, hey, this is a rumor. So make sure you stay tuned. I got y'all everything Commanders, even if it's something like this. So stay tuned. Really appreciate y'all. Again, leave a like on the way out. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.